The San Francisco 49ers setting for the Saints 49ers have once again made waves with their draft strategy. And this time, they've locked in a player who is already drawing strong reactions from fans, analysts, and even former critics. There's a lot to unpack about this pick, especially because it goes beyond just athletic performance. It's about fit, vision, and how he amplifies what the 49ers are trying to build on defense. And before we even dive into all of that, let's be clear, this isn't just hype. This is about a player who arrives with the tools, the pedigree, and the opportunity to make a serious difference, especially when it comes to run defense. The buzz is real, and I'm right there with the people who are excited. Now, as we break this down, it's important to note how the 49ers approach this draft differently. They didn't just chase flashy names or headline-grabbing talent. What they did was prioritize one of the areas where they struggled the most last season: defending the run. That's a part of the game that doesn't always get the attention it deserves, but anyone who follows the 49ers closely knows it was a real weakness. In fact, their defensive line against the run ranked near the bottom of the league last year. That's not acceptable for a team with championship aspirations. So what did they do? They attacked that problem head on. They didn't wait for it to fix itself or hope for internal development. They invested heavily in players who bring physicality, discipline, and a mindset geared towards shutting down the ground game. The first pick that caught everyone's attention was described by one analyst as an elite run defender. Someone who not only plays with controlled aggression, but also understands gap integrity and knows how to take on double teams. This isn't just a raw athlete. We're talking about a technically sound, game-aware player. He's coming into a system that's already built on high-level defensive principles, and now he gets to line up next to one of the most reliable run stoppers in the league. The synergy between those two could be massive. According to this same analyst, you'd be hard-pressed to name 2 or 3 better players in the entire draft at stopping the run. That's the kind of praise that makes you sit up and pay attention. The second selection wasn't far behind in terms of impact. Another player known for his strength against the run, with scouts highlighting his ability to shed blocks and plug gaps with authority. He's the kind of defender who might not flash on every play, but quietly makes life miserable for opposing running backs. He's durable, fundamentally sound, and brings a level of consistency that every defensive coordinator dreams of. Adding that to the rotation gives the 49ers much needed depth and reinforces the identity they were trying to reestablish on that side of the ball. But not every pick was met with universal approval. One of them, taken slightly earlier than expected, did raise some eyebrows. There were questions about whether it was too soon to draft him, given his injury history, and whether he'd be able to stay healthy at the next level. That said, when you dig into his tape, it's easy to see why the front office believed in him. The upside is undeniable. He plays with energy, speed, and a willingness to take risks that could lead to big plays. Yes, there's risk involved, but this might be one of those situations where the reward far outweighs the gamble, especially if he fits well into the scheme and adjusts quickly to the professional level. Now, perhaps the most fascinating selection was a slot cornerback who's been flying under the radar for most casual fans, but is extremely well regarded in analytical circles. One stat that keeps popping up: no slot cornerback allowed less separation in one-on-one matchups last season. Let that sink in. In a league increasingly dominated by short passes and quick releases, having someone who can blanket slot receivers is incredibly valuable. He doesn't rely on flashy plays or high interception numbers. Instead, his game is built on anticipation, footwork, and a deep understanding of offensive schemes. The only wrinkle? The 49ers already have a slot corner who's well established. So now the question becomes, is this about competition, depth, or possibly preparing to shift someone into a different role? Whatever the case, you can't argue with the value. To get someone this talented this late in the draft is a win, even if it wasn't a glaring need. And speaking of roles, this draft wasn't just about filling holes. It was about building a complete roster, one that can withstand injuries, adapt to different matchups, and develop over time. Junior Bergen, for instance, is a name that deserves more attention. He's coming in primarily as a return specialist, but don't be surprised if he gets reps at wide receiver as well. He's got speed, agility, and a feel for the open field that coaches love, The coaching staff clearly wants to explore different ways to use him, especially in special teams. But if someone goes down, Bergen might just be the guy to step up and surprise people on offense. It's not guaranteed, of course. There are plenty of guys ahead of him in the rotation, but the potential is there. Now let's talk about something that really caught my attention: the shift in perception from one of the 49ers' most outspoken critics. This analyst, who I've criticized many times for what I felt were overly simplistic takes on the team, actually came out in strong support of this draft class. That alone tells you something has changed. He pointed out that the team went back to its roots with this draft, focusing on defensive intensity, toughness, and players who can dominate the trenches. According to him, that's the formula that built the foundation of past 49ers teams. And honestly, I can't disagree with that. There's something refreshing about seeing the team double down on physicality and fundamentals instead of chasing headlines. He specifically mentioned guys like Miko Williams from Georgia and Alfred Collins from Texas. Players who bring length, power, and the ability to control the line of scrimmage. Then there's Nick Martin, a slightly smaller but ultra-aggressive defender who can move around the formation and make plays wherever he lines up. And let's not forget CJ West, a defensive tackle out of Indiana who might not have ideal size, but brings a relentless motor and the ability to disrupt from the inside. These are not flashy picks, but they are foundational ones. These are the types of players who do the dirty work, free up their teammates, and grind opponents down over 4 quarters. And while some media outlets were quick to give the 49ers a low draft grade, one even gave them a D, there's now a growing acknowledgement that those initial assessments might have missed the mark. According to Pro Football Focus, the 49ers may not have impressed with early round flair, but they absolutely crushed it when it comes to building a more effective run defense. 5 of their 6 defensive picks earned run defense grades over 80 in the last college season. That's not an accident. That's a deliberate strategy. It shows that the front office had a clear plan and executed it with purpose. This kind of turnaround is exactly why draft grades should be taken with a grain of salt. The way some of these analytics models work, if you don't grab a star quarterback or a big play wide receiver in the first round, you're automatically marked down. But team building is more complex than that. It's about knowing your weaknesses, trusting your evaluations, and finding guys who fit your system, even if they don't make headlines right away. And when you're a team like the 49ers, who already have star power in place, your job is to build depth, shore up soft spots, and create flexibility. The result? A defense that was one of the worst in the league against the run last season now looks poised to become one of the most improved units in the NFL. That's not just speculation. It's backed up by the numbers and by the eye test. These new additions bring size, athleticism, and a hard-nosed mentality that fits perfectly with the 49ers' defensive identity. They're not just filling holes, they're changing the tone of this unit. And here's the thing. This isn't just about numbers or fit on paper. The energy around this team feels different. The conversations happening right now among fans, insiders, and even the more skeptical voices in the media reflect a genuine belief that this draft class could quietly be one of the most impactful the 49ers have had in recent years. It's not because they landed a generational quarterback or a top 10 wide receiver. It's because they addressed a glaring issue with surgical precision. They didn't panic. They didn't overreach. They went after smart, tough, high motor. Players who can contribute right away and who reflect the philosophy of this coaching staff. And speaking of the coaching staff, they deserve some credit here. One of the more overlooked aspects of this draft is how well these picks seem to match what the coaches want from their units. When you look at what the defensive line coach preaches, gap control, hand usage, leverage, it becomes clear that these players weren't just chosen for their physical traits. They were picked because they already aligned with the teaching points and expectations of the system. That kind of cohesion between front office and coaching staff is rare, and it's one of the reasons the 49ers have been able to stay competitive year after year, despite dealing with injuries, roster turnover, and tough playoff exits. Now, let's circle back to the conversation around how these picks may alter existing roles. One theory that keeps popping up is that the team might be preparing to shift one of their current players into a different position. Maybe someone who's been playing outside could move into the slot, or vice versa. Or maybe this is about having a backup plan in case of injury. Either way, the front office is clearly playing chess, not checkers. They're thinking 2-3 moves ahead, making sure they're not caught flat-footed if someone goes down or if a young player takes a step backward in their development. That kind of planning is what separates the good teams from the great ones. Another player worth watching is Jordan James, who might not have received the same spotlight as some others, but is expected to step up when his number is called this. Yeah, he's been flying under the radar, but those close to the team are buzzing about how he's looked in the early stages of preparation. And while Curtis Rohr might not even be a lock to make the active roster, the vibes around him are strong right now. His current position is promising, and if things break right, he could carve out a meaningful role this season. That's the beauty of this roster. The depth is finally starting to look like a true strength, not just a patchwork solution, but let's be honest, there are still some valid concerns. One that keeps getting brought up in the comments and on podcasts is the lack of attention to the offensive side of the ball early in the draft. In fact, the first 100 picks were all defensive. That's a bold move, and it's understandable that some fans feel uneasy about it. What happens if the offensive line struggles? What if there's a regression at quarterback and no immediate answer behind him? These are fair questions, and I've seen some passionate takes from people who feel like the draft should have been more balanced. I don't completely agree, but I get it. If we get to week 8 and the offense is underperforming, those concerns will be louder than ever, and there'll be questions about whether the team miscalculated during the draft. Still, it's hard not to get excited when you take a step back and look at the full picture. This wasn't about quick fixes or headline grabs. This was about restoring an identity, one rooted in physical defense, depth at key positions, and a smart long-term approach to roster construction. And the early signs from minicamp prep are promising. The team is just days away from bringing these rookies into the building, and that's when we'll really start to get a sense of who's ready, who needs time, and who might emerge as this year's breakout surprise. What's really refreshing is seeing how much more unified the conversation around the team has become. It used to be a mess. Critics shouting over each other, fans divided, analysts throwing out lazy takes. But now there's a shift. There's still skepticism, sure, but it's more nuanced. Even the loudest doubters are starting to acknowledge that something is brewing here. The defense is tougher, the roster is deeper, the coaching staff is aligned, and even though there are still questions on the offensive side, the overall direction feels right. I think what resonates most is how this draft wasn't just about fixing last year's problems, it was about preparing for the future. Not just next season, but 2 or 3 seasons down the line. Or that's how winning teams operate. They don't just live in the now. They build frameworks, establish cultures, and make smart investments in players who might not be stars yet, but have the potential to become foundational pieces. We're less than 10 days away from rookie minicamp, and I couldn't be more ready. This next stretch is going to be loaded with updates, position battles, and emerging storylines. And whether you loved every pick or questioned a few, there's no denying the sense of purpose behind what the 49ers did. So as always, keep the conversation going, drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's see where this ride takes us. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a shocking turn of events that has left Dallas Cowboys fans reeling, Dak Prescott has officially signed with the San Francisco 49ers, marking a monumental shift in the landscape of the NFL. This move has set the football world abuzz as one of the most recognizable quarterbacks in the league departs from the team that drafted him, only to join a division rival with a roster poised for immediate success. For years, Prescott has been the cornerstone of the Cowboys' offense, leading the team to numerous playoff appearances and consistently putting up impressive statistics. His departure from Dallas, however, comes as a surprise to many, especially given the timing of the deal. The Cowboys, who had made significant investments in Prescott, expected him to be the long-term face of the franchise. But as negotiations stalled, it became clear that the quarterback's future in Dallas was uncertain. The San Francisco 49ers, on the other hand, have been searching for stability at the quarterback position, with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance both failing to meet expectations over the past few seasons. By signing Prescott, the 49ers not only bolster their offense, but also acquire a quarterback with proven leadership abilities and a reputation for thriving under pressure. Prescott's arrival immediately raises the stakes in the NFC West, as the 49ers now possess one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. For Cowboys fans, the news of Prescott's departure has been met with disbelief and frustration. The quarterback had been a beloved figure in Dallas, praised for his resilience, work ethic, and ability to perform in clutch moments. His departure signals the end of an era for the Cowboys, who now face an uncertain future at the quarterback position. The team's front office has yet to reveal their plans for replacing Prescott, but the focus will undoubtedly shift to finding a new leader to guide the Cowboys back to championship contention. Prescott's signing with the 49ers represents more than just a change of scenery. It is a statement about the shifting power dynamics within the NFC. The 49ers, already one of the most talented teams in the league, now have the quarterback they need to push them over the top. With Prescott at the helm, San Francisco becomes an immediate Super Bowl contender capable of challenging the best the league has to offer. In the coming weeks, all eyes will be on Prescott as he prepares to take the field in a new uniform. His arrival in San Francisco is set to redefine the NFC West rivalry and could potentially change the course of both teams' seasons. For the Cowboys, it's a painful farewell, but for the 49ers, it's a new chapter in their quest for another Super Bowl title. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.